To On the Edge with April Mahoney, ladies, gentlemen's brains. This is the place where the conversation is pointed and the guests are sharp and the responses are never dull. We have a wonderful guest today, Joe Cooper from the UK. Brains, there's nothing worse than a headache. And I tell you, I have some friends that really suffer. The room has to be dark. They can't stand certain smells. They can't stand certain sounds. You never know what's going to trigger them. And it's, debilitating. I have one girlfriend that has to have injections because her migraines are so bad, or you have to take her to the emergency room. Jo is going to tell us about her experience and what she has been through to find relief. Now, we want to give a disclaimer that in the event that you are under a doctor's care, we want you to continue that regimen. But these are some alternatives. These are holistic approaches that Jo has tried and she has found great favor, and she wants to share those with you. So we want to provide you with all the information for wellness. Okay. Thank you so much, Jo. Welcome to the Edge, Precious.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
I love your voice. Can you sing?
No, not at all.
Oh, you sing like that.
The kids have told me I can't sing.
Oh my goodness, it's sultry and raspy and sexy. It's beautiful. So tell us a little bit about your story, your journey, and your truth.
Okay, so I was 22 when I got I got a headache one day. I was at college. I was studying to be an accountant, so I was working and doing day release, and I got a really bad headache one day and went home from college, which was very unlike me. What I didn't realize at that time was that actually was the beginning of my first migraine, which lasted for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I couldn't shift it. So obviously went to the doctors, did all of the things, took all of the medication, and yeah, nothing shifted it. So eventually, life goes on, doesn't it? So you can't, well, you can, some people do, unfortunately. But I managed to pick myself up to an extent and sort of move forwards. And I started looking at all sorts of different holistic things at the time as well. So I managed to get myself better to the extent that I could function. I've had a full and happy life. But migraines are very, very different from person to person. Okay, two people actually experience migraine the same. For me, yes, there's the disorientation, there's the what's the word I'm looking for? The nausea. That was a big part. I had that for weeks in the early days, but basically for 28 years, I had constant head pain. So
wait, let me say, you had this for 28 years?
28 years, I had a headache all of the time.
Wow. At different degrees and different stages. It wasn't the same intensity Absolutely. All the time, but you had a constant headache.
Absolutely, yes. So sometimes it would be what people think of as more of the diagnosis was migraine right from the get-go. But a lot of people say a migraine is not just a headache. But some people, a migraine is actually just a headache. So yes, I would get the whole, nausea, the disorientation, and all the other things that go with it. I've never had aura, actually. Never had a problem with that. But constant head pain, yeah, all the time. And yes, it would vary in intensity. And it would go up and down depending on what I was doing and how much I was focusing on it, and this, that, and the other. It would change a lot.
Let me ask a question, because I want to ask a question as we get into this. The doctor immediately said migraine. Did they check you for other, maybe an aneurysm, blood pressure? Yeah. They went through all of these different things, and the end diagnosis was migraine.
Yeah, I had all of the tests, all of the scans, all of the x-rays. There was no, they were looking for brain tumors, but, the whole works they were looking for. Yeah, and, I was under the care of a neurologist. Yeah, complete mystery illness, basically. There was no cause that they could see. There was no reason for it. And as, I was under their sort of constant care for a few years, but as I became more sort of able to cope with it and to function with it, and to be honest, I think a lot of that is the fact that if you have something all of the time, there's a huge element of just getting used to it. No matter what it is and no matter how awful it is, there is an element of, well, it's there all the time, and you become a little bit desensitized.
Like a bad spouse. Huh?
Yeah, Absolutely. You know, you become used to it, you know, and life still happens, doesn't it? You know, life goes on and you still want to live life. So you manage as best you can with what you've got. I've managed extremely well. You know, this is no sob story by a long shot. But you know, the back of my mind was always this sort of constant pain going on. And I think what brought it to a head, well, I know what brought it to a head. About 7 years ago, I had a skiing accident. And it was a physical wound. I lost a lot of blood, but I didn't recover from that accident. And I was sort of sitting there thinking, okay, so physically I've healed and this is healed, and I wasn't. I was really poorly. You know, mentally and physically, I just felt broken. I was sort of lying on the sofa, not really being able to do anything. I could just about sort of take care of myself, but certainly taking care of the family, just couldn't do it. So that's when I really realised that I needed to up-level my healing journey, basically, and I needed to figure out a way to sort everything out. So that's when I really went into, the researching and the digging deep into what it is that we can do to help ourselves. So again, you know, I'd been in this situation before. I'd got a diagnosis of PTSD and chronic fatigue. I'd got no solution to it. You know, there was no, oh, you've got this, take this pill, it will sort you out. You know, there was none of that. You know, doctors started suggesting cognitive behavioral therapy, and they started suggesting, you know, traditional therapy. And I did do traditional therapy. I had an amazing lady that helped me enormously. And she really helped me to understand why my body was doing what it was doing, you know, why it was reacting to what I'd been through in the way that it was reacting. So I started to really understand how my body was working and what it was doing, which enabled me to be a lot kinder towards it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It's
Yeah,
like
so
I had some back issues, and the first thing the person told me that helped me heal was don't aggravate it, don't make it angry.
It's very interesting. You should make that observation, because anger and pain, you know, in the work that I do, anger and pain actually go hand in hand. So what I came to understand is that, you know, I'd had this constant pain for 28 years, so there's got to be some anger element going on there. Now that was probably the thing that took me the most to get over, because I've never been an angry person. You know, I'm not volatile. I'm sort of on an even keel, always have been. But suppressed anger is a real thing as well. So, you know, what I would say is in my experience personally, and also working with clients, that if there's pain, whether it be chronic as in acute or whether it be chronic as in long term, then there's going to be an element of anger, whether it be that you can't express your anger when you feel angry, or whether you actually are very angry. You know, some people sort of say to me, they say, you know, I just get angry at the most ridiculous things. I just, you know, something will happen and I'm suddenly whoosh, you know, really angry. It's very closely linked with chronic pain, and it's all linked with, you know, emotional stress that we hold, and trauma that we've experienced over the years.
So you go through this whole metamorphosis of change, but then you adapt. You know, you say, okay, I'm going to make the best of it. And then one day you say, no, I've been through this before. After the accident, I'm going to heal. What was your initial response? I mean, you know, I know you said you had enough. What did you do? Did you pick up a book? Did you call a phone? Did you listen to a podcast? Where did you start your research?
Yeah, books and Google. You know, I was in hospital in France where the skiing accident happened, and Mum was texting me. I'd lost a lot of blood, and she was texting me that my auntie had been in touch with her and said that I needed to start eating watercress and you know, spinach and all of these things, and basically gave me this really strong idea that by eating the right thing, I could increase my iron levels again. So I started researching, you know, how do I increase my iron levels? And, you know, when I came home, I carried on with that. I actually got my iron levels up really fast, but I was still, you know, exhausted. You know, I couldn't do anything. I was still mentally and physically felt broken. And then I just literally, you know, I'm lying on the sofa and I just had this really strong feeling that I was going to come out of it better than I went into it. And that was a huge moment, really. You know, I mentioned it to my husband and he didn't get it at all. It was the first time he looked at me as if I might be going completely bonkers. And I was like, no, I really feel that, you know, this is here for a reason. you know, this is here to teach me something or to learn from. I'd actually been doing Reiki for many years at this point. I've been using Reiki, which I don't know if you're aware of it, but it's basically energy healing.
Oh, honey, yes, I've had it done. It's the best energy massage you can have with your clothes on, brains. You better get your Reiki on.
That's a really good
but it
description.
really opens up your channels, it opens up your chakra, but there is a lot of duality. There is a lot of back and forth with your facilitator and your body. You have to lend yourself to this. After my first Reiki session, I was exhausted.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think. So how did you find that Reiki helped you with the migraine, but it also helped you from your with your recovery from your skiing accident, correct?
It did, yes. So I, when I wanted to start a family, I went to the doctors and said I want to start a family because I was taking all sorts of medication at that time, and they basically said you can't take this medication if you're going to be pregnant. So I was like, well, what do I do? And he said, well, you can take paracetamol. And I was like, you know, that's marvelous, but paracetamol never touch the edge of anything. Which anybody with a migraine will know that paracetamol is just
Okay, wait.
like
You said the word. You said the word kind of fast. What is it?
paracetamol.
Paracetamol.
Yeah,
That
it's just a regular painkiller that everybody will have had at some point. Have you got a different? You're in America. Have you got a different name for it?
I have no idea what it might be. Is it a heavy duty like a opioid or
No,
narcotic,
it's
or is it over the counter?
over the counter. Have you heard of Nurofen?
Yeah, I've heard of that.
So Nurofen's ibuprofen, and then paracetamol is paracetamol.
Yeah, and I found personally that I don't agree with ibuprofen at all. It tears my stomach up. It makes me just really, really nauseous. So I can't do it. And if you have other combinations of other uh, illnesses or medications that you're taking, it doesn't really seem to be very harmonious. So they wanted to give you that. Now, were your migraines severe enough where you maybe had to go to the ER from time to time?
No, I've never had to do that. They've never been that bad.
Okay. Yeah, I had
They're-
a coworker that she'd go in the bathroom and she'd have to take injections, and I don't know. I don't know if I could live with that. It's just that constant, and everyone's different. Is it in the frontal lobe, left, right, back? So I guess it just depends on where that aching is all the time. But again, you contributed it to nausea, and it just it makes you weak because you don't want
yeah,
to eat. You
yeah.
have brain fog, and then you don't really realize when you're normal because you've been in pain for so long.
And what I didn't realize until after I'd healed um, was that the medication that I was taking to alleviate my migraine symptoms, in fact, I took a picture of the box and posted it on social media not so long ago. The three, you know how on the back of medication it always tells you what it might cause.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the three main things that what I was taking would cause would be nausea, drowsiness, and headaches. And they were the three things that I was actually trying to alleviate.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, when the doctor told me that I couldn't take this medication, I was like, well, I've got to do something for the pain. So that's when I got into Reiki. Luckily, I had a family friend who's amazing, who I started seeing and worked with her holistically while I was pregnant, and that was amazing. So then I became attuned, and I used Reiki for my own pain relief for 20 years or so. After my accident, I felt really strongly drawn to getting more into Reiki, finishing, the level 3, becoming the Reiki master, and I haven't stopped since then. To be honest, I've been on a really big journey. One thing has led to another. I came across, because I was very strongly drawn to it, a technique called the metaphysical anatomy technique, which effectively is an emotional trauma release technique. Emotion and trauma release isn't something that I've ever felt particularly drawn to itself. This is very much a personal development tool. It's all about, it's not about reliving the trauma. It's not therapy. It's not about talking about something awful that happened. And actually, as in my case, it doesn't necessarily have to be like one awful thing that happened. A lot of people think of trauma as a bad thing that happened, but trauma actually is what I came to learn. It's anytime our body feels unsafe or out of control. So when I started to understand that, I was like, okay, so there isn't sort of any capital T trauma, if you like, in my life. But yeah, there's lots of times, you know, through childhood and what have you, when I would feel unsafe or out of control. I mean, I used to ride ponies, which was great and great fun. But the amount of times I'd be riding a pony and feeling completely unsafe and completely out of control, you know, it's the little things that we go through and experience in life can actually sort of equate to trauma. And then when we clear that, and we clear that with what I do with energy healing, we basically, what we're doing is we're working with the language of the body. Okay, so it's psychosomatics. It's the fact that whatever it is we're presented with, any sort of pain, any disease, any ailment, so of course migraines comes into that, is giving us a clue as to what the emotional stress is that the body's holding. It's almost like there's behavioural patterns that are common with various different illnesses, ailments, or whatever. And yeah, I was completely captivated by the concept, and you know, just started learning all that I could. And yeah, and as I learned and started to
And so now
understand,
you've taken all of this experience, you've taken all of this wisdom, and you've endured the pain. You're pouring into others. Give us one or two great takeaways that people can do to, you know, get some temporary relief in a holistic way without taking medication. Are there certain pressure points? Is there focal points? Is there a meditation? You know, is there maybe a foot massage? Give us a couple of great takeaways.
there is an awful lot. I think the biggest thing is to understand, and this is, you know, what I've learned on my journey. I fully appreciate that people can say, oh, you do this and you'll sort your migraine out. I know how annoying that is. You know, I've been there for 28 years. You know, that's not helpful, I know. What I've come to learn through my own experience is that our mindset is key. You know, what we tell ourselves, every single cell in our body is listening to our thoughts. What we tell ourselves matters. So if you've got migraines and think you can do nothing about them, as I did for so long, that actually has a negative impact on us. If we can change our mindset and think, okay, so I've got migraines, but there's something I can do about it. You know, if we start really tuning into our body and working with it and saying, okay, well, if my body's trying to talk to me, you know, our body's got its own language. If it's trying to talk to me, what is it telling me? And what I find a lot with people with migraines, and certainly myself included, um, you know, one of the main things with I'm going to call it a typical migraine, as I say, they all vary. A lot of people with migraines will find that they have to go and lie in a darkened room. You know, they have to shut the world out. They can't do anything. And you know, when we start looking at the psychosomatics and start to think, okay, well, what's the reason for that? So I will sort of start to question, well, do you take that time out without the migraine? And you sort of start to realize that the psychosomatics of migraine sufferers, they tend to be people pleasers, they tend to be perfectionists, you know, they tend to be overthinkers. So anything that we can do to just be kind to ourselves is going to make a huge difference. And our thought process, what we tell ourselves, is really fundamental in that.
You know, and I can see that. But when you got a migraine, thinking, just trying to get over the pain, looking at the root cause, because stress and trauma, they turn into dis-ease, you know, and I see that and I hear that over and over again.
Absolutely.
Reversing it is one thing, maintaining it and being able to deal with it is something else. Being able to cope, it's a lot to go into that. So as you work with your clients, you really kind of help them focus on mindset, being kind to themselves, more relaxation, Reiki, those type of things of what you have found to be very helpful in relief, not again healing brains, because we're not, you know, it's not going to work for everybody, but it will provide relief. And that's what we want to do, is we want to provide relief. But let's get to know you, Joe, a little bit, because that's some heavy lifting. So you were a skier, as you told me. You were a pretty proficient skier for a long time.
Yeah, I was okay.
Yeah,
I've never been a brilliant skier.
yeah. Well,
But
you
yeah,
know what? I tried to ski and I couldn't wedge one time and the tree was coming too close. And I was like,
oh,
okay, we'll walk back to the lodge and have a cocktail. How about that? You know, but it's a
yeah.
lot. So what do you do now for, you know, for exercise? Because you have to be gentle with your back and you want to be gentle with, you know, with your mind and your thought process. What things do you do now for
My
stimulation
favorite,
exercise?
yeah, I love yoga. I love that whole mind body spirit connection. You know,
Mm.
it's really powerful, and I love Pilates as well. Um, I actually do a one-to-one Pilates session every week. Sometimes there's two of us there, with somebody that really can she can literally look at my body and tell me what I need to do. So things like, it's gentle exercise, and things like walking, anything like that's good. And what I actually really love and is a lot of fun is rebounding, which is basically it's jumping up and down on a mini trampoline. That's my absolute favorite.
Oh,
I wouldn't have been able to do that with a headache. So that's, one of the things now.
that or a
I've got
backache.
migraines in the past, no, or backache. So now that I've got over all of this stuff, yeah, I absolutely love rebounding. It's a lot of fun.
So do you incorporate a certain diet to keep your stamina up too?
Absolutely, that was one of the first things I changed. So lots of fruit, lots of vegetables, and it's not a case of you have to do this. You have to, it's not being vegan or being vegetarian or anything like that.
Right.
It's about adding in the whole foods, adding in the fruit, adding in the vegetables. Fruit is key. And fruit actually is something I cut out years ago when the doctors first said, what's your sugar intake, which absolutely we should do.
Right.
I put fruit into the bracket of sugar, which I now realise it's a completely different type of sugar.
It
And
is
it's
a completely different type of sugar. And I'm reading a really great book. It's called Fit for Life. And what it tells is that for the body to do its own cleansing is that you should eat fruit, not necessarily the fruit juice, but the actual raw fruit 30 minutes before on an empty stomach, 30 minutes before you have your regular meal. And it is automatically cleansing the body. And I have found that it really works. And food combining gives me so much more energy. Not putting meat with carbs, but I put the meat with vegetables or vegetables with vegetables. I try to go with meatless days, and again, Brains, I eat meat, so I'm not trying to pretend like I don't. But when you think about that meat's been dead 3 weeks almost before you consume it, and then you have to digest it and eliminate it. That takes a lot of stress on the body. So you want to take care of that. People that are self-medicating, a lot of alcohol, depression, all those things can definitely contribute to that. And it's hard to, change your lifestyle. Sometimes people are in difficult situations where their spouse or their children or their job or their finances are also the trigger for these types of illnesses. But when you try to say, okay, well, I want to, heal my migraine and be kind to myself, but you've got these contributing factors, you need to offset that with a nice meal or with some yoga or with some Pilates or with some meditation. All of that is fun. So now let's ask one of my favorite questions. If you were a teapot, nope, that's not the question I wanted to ask. If you were an appliance in the kitchen, what appliance would you be?
an appliance in the kitchen. Gosh, what a question. Okay, I think I'd be a blender.
Why?
Because what I've come to realise on this journey, I'm very equally left and right brained. So, I started off being an accountant, now I'm an energy healer. I very much blend the holistic with more of, the factual down to earth. I'm very good at, yes, I love the woo woo and I do all of that, but I'm very good at blending that into more of a practical, solution that people can instigate, really. It's sort of marrying the two together.
Now you introduced it. You said you're into the hoo-hoo. What is your favorite crystal?
There's so many. I've got salt crystals on my table over there that are a light. I think my favorite crystal would be an amethyst.
Amethyst? A lot of people really like the energy of the amethyst. I like the rose quartz. Where is my rose quartz?
A rose quartz is beautiful. I nearly always have a crystal in my pocket, actually, and a rose quartz.
I do. I have rose quartz. I just had it on my desk. Here she is. I love it.
Beautiful.
it just seems like it centers me. It seems like it just can take on the energy of any other crystal if you place it right.
Mhm.
So, um, what planet are you from?
I think I'm probably from the planet Earth, actually.
Really? I'm from Jupiter. I am way
Really,
out there. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. If you could time travel, where would you travel to? What period?
I would. I don't know if it's a period. The Golden Age of Atlantis. I would love to go there and visit.
Mm,
I would love to go. And I know some people say it's a fictional place. Um,
I don't know.
no, I think not. I would love to go there. Just
Did
having
you
a look
watch
round.
Avatar? Did you
No.
watch that movie? Yeah. That
Mm.
it's similar, but not exactly. It's that underwater fantasy life. What is your superpower?
Gosh, my superpower. I think, okay, my superpower, I have discovered on this journey that I have an ability to, literally read people's bodies. I'm a very intuitive
Mm,
body reader, if you like. So, people come to me and they're like, well, I don't know what emotional stress is, this, that, and the other. I can facilitate them either accessing that. If people can't access that, I can actually tune in and pick it up as well. Um, that's been very eye-opening for me because I didn't know I could do that until a few years ago.
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
Because you are able to read the body, does that also make you uh, empathic?
Very empathic, definitely. Yeah.
Do you think that being empathic can also contribute to taking on the energy of individuals, not just through Reiki, but also, the migraines, because that's
Absolutely.
when you're very empathic, you take on the person's pain across the street, you know.
So the
So
most simple way, it's all about grounding yourself, isn't it, and protecting your energy. The simplest way I've found to do this, and you can do it anywhere at any time. Particularly I find, I don't like particularly crowded places, shopping centres, things like that. I used to find that quite draining. And I realized it was because I was picking up all of these energies, because I was empathic. And the simplest, easiest, and really, really effective way to deal with that, I find now. I mean, I've got all sorts of convoluted ways, but this is really straightforward and anybody can do it anytime. Is just to acknowledge the difference between you and the other people. Acknowledge the difference between my energy and the energy around me. It's really powerful just to acknowledge the difference between, your identity and somebody else's also your emotions and somebody else's emotions. If you're with somebody that's really emotional and you start picking it up, and you don't need to do it out loud, you just acknowledge the difference between your emotions and their emotions. And I find that to be extremely powerful.
okay. You
It
talked
saves
about
all the coordinating and things.
you talked about others around you. Can you give maybe a suggestion to someone that is living with someone that is experiencing this pain because you
Mm.
don't know what to do? You want to continue to love, you want to continue to support, but you can end up being annoying too because, oh, we come on and get up and you can fight through this and it's okay. Not when your brain is on fire.
No, and it is very, very difficult. And, a lot of people, they might be having this intense pain. They might not be able to function, but they look okay. They're not bleeding or whatever. It can be very hard for people to understand what somebody's going through if you've not been through it. And that's true of anything, whether it's migraines or anything else. So I think really, the best thing to do is just to be there, and to listen. So rather than maybe sort of encourage, is to listen and to, just be compassionate, just be that compassionate witness. Let people talk if they want to talk, and try as best you can to, understand. But things like just providing, glasses of water, things like that, put some cucumber or lemon in the water, put a few more nutrients in there. There's all sorts of little things. There's so much that we can actually do that's, little things to help. Um, for
Do you
definite.
find that, and again, this is a suggestion, do you find that increasing the electrolytes could help in different minerals? Can people research that as well?
It's not something I've ever looked into or done. I literally, are focused on the fruits, the whole foods. I add fruit into my water. It's called water infusions. It's a relatively new thing, but it's been around for forever. You know, just throw some fruit into your water, things like that. So no, electrolytes is never anything I've concentrated on or even particularly researched.
Okay. Well, you have researched and done and been through a lot, and we appreciate you so much. Please tell my brains how to get in contact with you, Joe, how they can get more information one-on-one. She has the ability to perform Reiki. Are you doing it through Zoom as well?
I work over Zoom, yes. So if you've got migraines, I do use Reiki, but metaphysical anatomy is what's going to get to the root cause fast and clear it quickly. And also, you mentioned after Reiki you were very tired. With metaphysical anatomy, it's a very easy and a very graceful process. So, you know, we don't get sort of the healing crises of some energy healing techniques. So it's very graceful. Lots more information about it all on my website, which is holistically-whole.co.uk. I have a Facebook group called Moving On From Migraine with Joe Cooper, where I share an awful lot of things. In fact, I ran a workshop last week. So, you know, 5 days, an hour a day, lots and lots of useful information that's easy for you to implement. One of the biggest takeaways, I think, with this and, you know, everything I'm saying, baby steps are really, really good. You know, whether you're looking at your diet or whatever it is, you know, don't expect to suddenly change everything overnight. You don't need to. Just introduce something. So introduce a bit more fruit. And you know, make it easy. Let it be easy for yourself, because you don't want it to be another job. You know, you just want to be taking positive steps, but they can still be small steps. Okay, it's really, really important to always be kind to yourself.
Absolutely. You have to be kind to yourself. Thank you so much, Joe, for being here on the edge. We appreciate you. We value you. Brains, I need you to go to this location right here. I'm going to put all Joe's information at the back of the interview. We are going to rerun this. Please share this with someone that is in pain, that's struggling, or seeking out information. Information is powerful, and to have options and to have choices. Thank you so much again, and come back and visit me soon. Take care of yourself, precious.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Bye, brains.